Well, good morning. Welcome to Coffee with a Pastor. I hope you've got a good cup of warm coffee. And I do hope you have power. We've been getting reports that a lot of our members are without power. And I certainly, my heart and my prayers have gone out to them. That's very tough in these cold weather. And it'd be something we won't forget. But please do pray for those without power and pray that we can get power back. Today and get people warm again and all. It's quite a deal. Well, let's get into the scripture today. We're into Genesis 16. Now, in Genesis 15, which a lot of scholars and I believe is the most important chapter in the whole account of Abraham. It begins with him having doubt, and then God reassuring him. He takes him out and shows him the stars, and he sees the stars. And he says, so your descendants will be. And the Bible said that Abraham believed God. And Paul picks up on that theme, and he talks about we're justified by faith, not by works. And he quotes that verse of Genesis 15:6. We see where God makes a covenant, but he really makes it with himself, but makes it for Abraham and his descendants. And then we get chapter 16, and Sarah's having some doubts. Abram's wife Sarai, or will later be Sarah, she's having doubts. And so she thinks she wants to help. And so she takes her maidservant, Hagar, and takes Hagar and gives him to Abraham. And Abraham has sex with her, and she becomes pregnant and becomes with child. And I don't know what Sarah was thinking, because obviously when Hagar got pregnant, it really got all over her that she was having Abram's son. She wasn't. And so she complains to Abram. Abram says, she's your servant, you do what you want. And so she starts mistreating Sarai. And Sarai leaves. And she's by a spring. And God comes to her. And he assures her that he's with her, and he assures her that he's going to bless her son as well. Now, she's going to have Ishmael, and God tells her that she's going to have a son, and you're going to call him Ishmael. And he's going to be blessed, but he's not going to be the son of the promise to Abraham. That will come through Sarai, though Sarah doesn't know it yet. And so there's a great verse there after God talks with her and deals with her. And Hagar says, you are the God who sees me. You are the God who sees me. The Hebrew term is El Roi. It's El Roi, the God who sees. Elohim, Roy means God who sees. And she knows that God has seen her and seen her in her misery and seen her like that. But he's promised her a child. She's named him Ishmael. And God will be with them. And he'll bless them. So she goes back. Now this chapter is on the heels of what we consider one of the great chapters where we carry that faith of Abraham all the way to the New Testament, talking about justification by faith. And yet here's Abraham truthfully just failing. He didn't correct his wife, saying, no, I'm not going to take Hagar. God's promised a child through you. We're not going to do this. But he doesn't keep the faith in that sense. You know, I'm glad that a lot of the Bible characters didn't live today. We live in a society today that can't handle people making mistakes. They can't handle people sinning. If they find something in your past, if you dare to be a public figure or a political figure, and they find a flaw in your character, if they find something in your past that you've done wrong, they want to cancel you and say that you're not eligible. They want to go back in history and look at some faults of our founding fathers, which were men of faults. The problem I see with that is it flies in the face of what the Bible teaches. The Bible teaches that we have two natures, and that we're always at battle with them. But that great people of faith in the Bible had their moments where they failed, all but Jesus Christ. And, all the disciples had their moments where they failed. The problem is not, failing. The problem is not coming back and living for Christ and being part of Christ. It's just significant for us to live for Christ in all of our ways and all of our life. And but when we fail, we go again. And the thing about it is a lot of people have done a lot of great things who've also done some sinful things and some dumb things in their life. Doesn't mean their life's over. Doesn't mean that they can't go on and pick up and do better. But that's one of the things that I guess I'm aggravated in our society today, is that we just want to cancel somebody out if they ever make a mistake. And the gospel says that we're going to be overcoming our sin. But I want to go back to Hagar. Here's a woman's being mistreated, and she just did what Sarai wanted her to do, and she's being mistreated, and she feels like nobody cares, but God sees her misery, and He sees her, and He comes to her, He comforts her, and He knows right where you're at. And I wonder if there may be somebody listening to here today that you feel like God's kind of forgotten where you're at. Let me assure you, He knows your address, He knows where you're at, and He sees you. Elroy, He sees you. And He wants to help you. And He wants to be with you. And that's a pretty good thought for today. We've looked at how Abraham made a mistake, had Hagar and Ishmael. There's one other thing I do want to mention. Every now and then I'll hear some preacher, or I'll read something, or one of the church members will come up to me and say, boy, I sure wish that Abraham hadn't made that mistake with Ishmael, because this Palestinian war and all this Middle East conflict goes right back to Isaac and Ishmael. I don't have time to go all the way into this. Those people just have no clue what they're talking about. That's not where the conflict goes back to. Ishmael, though he wasn't the child of promise, he was blessed. He was part of the blessing. We realize that not all the people who they had conflicts with were from Ishmael. In fact, they had very few conflicts between Isaac's descendants and Ishmael's descendants. Most of them came from other regions. And also, when you hear somebody say that, smile, but realize they have no clue what they're talking about. And it's good to have the facts on your side. Anyway, you have a blessed day, and I'll talk to you tomorrow.